Welcome to another round of Salty Takeaways and Bitter Ends and a 2's review. It's a combo plate here at Soccer Down here. We're going to go over the loss, the 3-0 loss of Atlanta United to Austin FC. And we're also going to duck in the door quickly and take a peek at the Atlanta United 2 match in FC Tulsa. The fifth match in 15 days. We'll get you the highlights from that, and we will get you the numbers from that match as well and let you know what the latest is as the run of time for Atlanta United 2, with all of that match, all those matches crammed into that little bit of space, finally comes to a close, and the guys can at least rest for a day or two when they come back from Tulsa. So let's get into your comments will be around as well as we get into all of the numbers from Atlanta United and Austin FC. And in the first half, it came down to individual mistakes. It was 2 moments, and it ends up with 2 goals on the board in the first 20 minutes for Austin FC, where the back line on the first opportunity, the back line for the first goal, they all go back as one, create some space, header, back of the net. Second one was a failed clearance attempt by Caleb Wiley, gets popped up into the air, and there to pounce is Austin, and it's 2-0. And Atlanta United, after the first 20 minutes, is trying to continue to work uphill. And in the second half, the third one goes on the board as they're chasing the game. You get caught in transition, and then you have the third one happen on the board. 3-0 your final. And one of the main reasons that it took a while for this show to come online was an hour and 15 minutes before Gonzalo Pineda came into the press conference room, and it was a very late night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Gonzalo Pineda, first and foremost, apologized to pretty much everyone, fans, press, everyone attached to Atlanta United, and it went from there. So let's take a peek at the numbers for Atlanta United and for our friends at SofaScore. Coming up with the numbers, it was George Campbell and Mateus Usechu had the highest marks on the day. The team on the whole from SofaScore had a 6.59. George Campbell a 7.2, Mateus Usechu had a 7-1, and the initial decision was to sit Marcelino Moreno to try to have the speed of Atlanta United working up top with Cisneros, Almada, Arujo, and Joseph. Your midfield was Josechu and Ibarra, in addition to Thiago Almada. Your back four was Caleb Wiley, George Campbell, Alan Franco, Aiden McFadden, who came in and has started now 4 in a row, and congrats to Aiden McFadden for getting his first-team contract signed before this match, as he's filled in admirably, and he's done very, very well in the eyes of Gonzalo Pineda, as has Caleb Wiley. Both of them, in the post-match comments, were singled out by Gonzalo Pineda for doing well and doing what they've been asked within the framework of Atlanta United. Caleb Wiley on the day had 3 clearances, 2 tackles, 1 dribble pass, and they did count an error leading to a goal. That was an actual category for our friends at SofaScore. 3 for 7 on ground duels, 2 for 3 in the air, so 5 for 10 on the day, and 65 touches, passed at 70%. 1 for 1 on his crosses, 1 for 2 on his long balls, and 1 for 2 on the dribble. Aiden McFadden on the day, in his 67 minutes, 1 tackle, 2 dribbles passed. He was 2 for 4 on duels, 17 of 27 in passing at 63% on 44 touches, 1 key pass, 1 for 3 on his crosses. Rocco Rios Novo, with a rough day, 3 goals let in passed. He was credited with a 5.9 on SofaScore, 42 touches, 35 of 37 on his accurate passes with 1 clearance on the day, 3 for 5 on long balls. Also, Joseph finished with a 6.9, Ronaldo Cisneros a 6.3 before he was removed at halftime. Thiago Almada a 6.7, Luis Arujo a 6.8. That is Luis's 5th yellow card on the season. He will not be available for the match against RSL. Franco Ibarra had a 6.3. Alan Franco a 6.9. Substitutions, Juanjo Purata came in for Ibarra, played the last 23 minutes. Marcelino Moreno had a 7.3 in the second half that he was out there. Santi Sosa got in 10 minutes, and Machop Chol came in for Aiden McFadden, played more at right back, and he played 23 minutes as well and had a 6.7. Looking at the other numbers at the back, George Campbell with his 7.2 on the day, 3 clearances, a block, 4 interceptions, was 1 for 3 on his aerial duels, lost the only ground duel that he had. 75 of 82 at 91% for his passing numbers on 96 touches, 4 for 7 on his long balls on the day. Alan Franco with his numbers at a 6.9, 5 clearances, 2 interceptions, 3 tackles, 3 for 5 on ground duels, 1 for 1 on the only aerial. He had 94 touches, 92% in passing at 69 of 75, 2 key passes, 1 for 1 on his crosses, 5 for 8 on his long balls, and he did have 1 shot block. Looking at the statistics in the overall, not necessarily a surprise that Atlanta United had 62% of the possession. They had roughly 2/3 of it at the half, but once again, when Austin goes out to a 2-0 lead, then you're going to cede possession and basically defend for however many minutes it ends up being. 19 total shots for Atlanta United, 4 of them on target, 19-10 were the final numbers. 9 blocks for a very disciplined Austin FC defense, and it was only 2 blocks of their shots as well. And so, 9 blocks for Atlanta United, 2 blocks for Austin FC. Sorry, I got that reversed. Corner kicks, 9 corners for Atlanta United. No corners on the day for Austin. 14 fouls to 10. Austin led in that category. Your passing numbers, once again, no real surprise. 86% on just over 550 passes for Atlanta United. But once again, Austin on the day only 334 passes, basically 20% less, or more than that. So 334 out of 553, so it's like 60% of those numbers. 75% passing there. 40 long balls to 29 for Austin. Atlanta had 8 crosses to 4, 1 on the dribble, 15 times compared to 10, won 47 of the 86 duels. And tackles on the day went to Austin at 14-11, interceptions 12-11, and to Atlanta United 19 clearances on the day for Austin as Atlanta tried to push things in the second half. Standings now in the West, Austin is second in the table behind LAFC. They're at 37 points, same number of matches played. And for Atlanta United now, you look at where they are, and Atlanta United 6 points out of a playoff spot, 2 wins. They have 1 match in hand on Cincinnati, 2 on Charlotte. And so they have at least 1 match in hand on a lot of folks who are currently in the playoff picture. And we had pretty much figured that the Eastern Conference was going to be crazy this year. And it's no different. Atlanta United, after the day, they are 3 points from the bottom, but they're 6 points out of a playoff spot. New England, not in a playoff spot currently. Columbus, close to a playoff spot. Cincinnati and Charlotte are in the playoff positions right now. And so that's what we pretty much anticipated with a very crazy Eastern Conference. Atlanta United right now at 5-5-8 in their first 18 matches as we officially start the second half of the season. So let's get into your thoughts. We're not going to waste any time here and just get into your thoughts on the day, and we'll talk them through. And thanks to everyone who had brought comments in late last night, now that we're finally going to address them here. Tom Russo, the Airborne DJ, completely embarrassing. We'll concede goals with the youth in the back from injuries, but we barely came close to scoring. And the only chance we had is outscoring teams given the situation, starting to question Pineda bad, just bad. Okay, Tom, I would not question Gonzalo Pineda right now because to the points that you made, you have youth in the back from injuries, and you're finally having your DPs together, and you're finally getting the match at NYC was the first time that you had all of your DPs playing together this season. And you're looking at the second half of a schedule, and I'm not going to question Gonzalo Pineda considering everything that we've been discussing here in the first half of the season. Barely came close to scoring once again. It's understandable when Austin gets a quick 2-0 lead, and then they just don't really have to do anything at that point. It literally is taking advantage of situations. You counterattack on the road. That's what Josh Wolf and Austin FC did. And when an opportunity presents itself, then you go. With a lead, you don't have to do that. And so they defended. They defended very well. They were very disciplined in doing so. And yes, it does come down to Atlanta United trying to find ways to get past that very disciplined defense. at the end of the day. That is absolutely true. But I'm not in a position to start questioning Gonzalo Pineda, especially as you're trying to chase a match after giving up 2 goals in the first 20 minutes. So I'm not going to do that right now. Waffle's done. Lost season of 2022. Once again, what I would maintain is we have just started the halfway point of the schedule. You're in the second half. You're just there. So every match, especially at home, is amplified going forward to try to make up those 6 points to get into the playoff picture. But what I will continue to emphasize here is you're just past the halfway point of the season. I don't think it is certainly your prerogative to be done and call it the lost season for whatever reasons you feel, but I am not going to do that. Yes, things are more amplified the closer you get toward the end of the schedule, and now that you're on the back 9, you're playing hole number 10. You've got to steal some points on the road, and you've got to take care of things at home. Waffle, you might be done, I'm not. And it just means that things are amplified going forward. David at Who Took My Thrash, 2 early goals, one on a failed clearance and the other on a turnover in their own third. Next similar play, they went back to Rocco. Maybe simplify the game to just play long in the first 15 minutes next game to limit risk until they get their legs. There are things that Gonzalo Pineda said, and he's going to address in the week and try to dial things back and work on technique before tactics and things like that. So I think that, David, to your point, I think that midweek will be very interesting. I want to see what the lineup is like. Obviously, without Luis Araujo, you've got to figure out what you want to do up top, and then go from there. You're also dealing with a team on short rest coming in as well. RSL played late last night, and they are turning around and coming to Atlanta in the midweek. So what does RSL look like? What does Atlanta United look like lineup-wise? So for me, that's my next question when it comes to the matchup that is going to be happening in the midweek. They were the late game. RSL was the late game at home in a 2-2 draw with Colorado. What does RSL look like? And what does Atlanta United look like? So that, once again, Gonzalo Pineda. And what I would recommend is, if you have the time, I would go to the Atlanta United YouTube channel, and I would listen to the Gonzalo Pineda press conference opportunity in its entirety. Don't rely on sound bites. Don't rely on just bits and pieces. Listen to the whole thing, so that way you get the full context of what he was wanting to say with the questions that were being asked of him last night. So, David, there were points later in his press opportunity that addressed the notion of reworking things and starting with technique before you get into tactics and things like that. So, David, I would recommend, and for everyone, I would recommend just go to the YouTube page, listen to what Gonzalo Pineda said from beginning to end. Don't just rely on sound bites these days where you can get things in full. Niall is in. Frustrating loss to a very good team. Costly mistakes. Agreed. Winning home games is crucial. Check. A better performance on Wednesday against RSL will be needed. Agreed. There's still half of the season left, but it has come to this point of the season where results are more important than ever. Check, check, and double check. Right there with you, Niall. Also on the board, Shiva. What I saw today is a team that just can't seem to put it together anymore. Just do our best and develop the young guys and see who to move on from in the winter. Shiva, I understand where you're coming from here, but once again, you're looking at you're developing the young guys first and foremost, and it goes back to the point that I was making about Caleb Wiley and Aiden McFadden being referenced by Gonzalo Pineda in the press conference. And George Campbell continues to do well with what he's being asked to do at the back. And remember, George is not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. And so you have all of these the young guys at the back trying to integrate as well and find their footing. Caleb Wiley finally coming back from injury. George Campbell, remember, he was injured for a little bit, and he's back as a part of the discussion. Do we see, and that's what you want here in the last half of the season. You want them to do their best, and it was, once again, I will go back, Shiva, to the notion that when you give up 2 goals early and you have a very disciplined defense in Austin, it's going to be hard to get past them. It was a very, very stout defense that was put together by Josh Wolf in that match yesterday. And, to give you an idea, let me go into the Austin numbers since we brought it up. And we're looking at what were the statistical breakdown within the lineups. Austin's back line was John Gallagher, Cascante, Gabrielson, and Nick Lima. Brad Stuver finished the day with a 7.8, according to SofaScore. 4 saves from inside the box, 1 high claim, 4 saves. So all of those were from inside the box. So that was what Brad Stuver got to face on the day. Nick Lima for Austin FC had a clearance, a block, 3 tackles, was 4 of 6 on his duels, 3 key passes, 2 for 3 crosses, long balls. Let's just go through the defensive numbers here. Gabrielson on the day, 7 clearances for Gabrielson, 2 blocks, and one of his 2 duels. Julio Cascante, before he was subbed out with 10 minutes to go, had a clearance and an interception, won the only aerial duel that he was a part of, 88% passing and 3 for 3 on his long balls. And then John Gallagher. John Gallagher was 3 clearances, an interception, a tackle, 3 for 5 on ground duels, 2 for 3 on his long balls, and 81% passing. So that's a great deal of success in defending all the way through in a 90-minute match. Alexander Ring, 72% passing, 13 of 18 on long balls for Alexander Ring. I don't think I've seen a number that's been that high this season. Only 1 of 8 on duels, and committed 3 fouls, had 3 clearances, 3 interceptions, 1 tackle, and 3 dribbles passed. So you take those 5 guys and add Brad Stuver into it, very, very stout defensively and holding their line, working their way through for Austin FC on the day. So it was a very successful day from them. And I think, Shiva, when you want to develop the young guys and see who to move on from in the winter, it's not just going to be the young guys, because if you want to move on from some of the veterans, you have to have the veterans out there as a part of the equation. How do they fit into what Gonzalo Pineda wants to do? And so, no, I think that this is a team that is going to do their best a staff that is going to do their best to put the team in positions to win. And it's going to be a push until they cannot push anymore. And so that's what I'm looking at from Atlanta United here in the second half of the season. Emilio, high press at all costs seems to be exposing the youngsters' efforts getting back, also the center backs in general. Are we still not willing to be more flexible in our play? High press, it's the way that this system is, Emilio, is what you're trying to do is win the ball back as quickly as you can after you lose it. It's not necessarily a high press, it's pressure on the ball when the opportunity is there to try to regain possession. So it's not necessarily a high press, and it's moments that we talk about when it comes to these mistakes that create goals. And if you give the ball away in your own defensive third, creates a short field, and you have to be ready, and everyone has to race their way back to try to defend in a situation like that. So it's not a high press, it is pressure. High press to me seems like something that you would see with Red Bulls, with high pressure, high intensity. But what you're seeing from the center backs, Emilio, I think that with George Campbell and with Alan Franco, we go through the numbers, and I specifically want to go through the numbers each and every time here on Salty, just so you understand and so everyone can understand the numbers and all of the high numbers and the successful numbers that they have. And yes, they do make individual mistakes, and you want to learn from them and go forward, but not everything is, it's not as pronounced when it comes to errors as I think that we look at them sometimes. I think that it's moments that we lock onto, but if you look at the larger picture and the larger development of these players, I think that you'll see that George Campbell is continuing to grow as a center back. Alan Franco, yes, I know that there are those moments where A lot of folks that I know and that I have conversations with, they Alan Franco, I'm sure, drives folks a little crazy sometimes. But look at the numbers that he's producing in the overall, and I know that we lock into the mistakes, but take the mistakes as a part of the equation. Don't just focus on that as the only element here. Flexibility comes from the adjustments in game. We have the discussion about tactics and philosophy. Philosophy is what we see and what you want to be, whether it's 4-3-3 or what have you, to get you into a game. And then it's the tactics in game where the adjustments come into play. So the philosophy is build from the back, work your way forward, and then if you lose possession, the part of the philosophy is to regain the ball back as quickly as possible to put the defense on their heels and work your way forward. So that's philosophy. Tactics are things that happen in game that have to be adjusted. So flexibility is, and I think that, Emilio, I think this is what you're getting at. I think you're trying to address the philosophy and then the tactics within the game. Remember, those are two separate things. And so that's just one of the things that I want to remind folks is that they're two separate things. Philosophy and tactics are two separate things. Philosophy, build from the back, work your way forward, have a keeper who is confident at his feet when it comes to possession, and have those individuals who can dribble through traffic and create and work your way into those artists that we have up top, like Thiago Almada, like Luis Araujo, and with Joseph and Ronaldo Cisneros, etc. And working your way forward. Tactics are the in-game things. And so, but once again, I mentioned what Gonzalo Pineda mentioned post-match, and he mentioned that they were going to be looking at things, and it's going to be that they're going to sit there and try to figure things out and work your way backward to work your way forward. So philosophically, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. But I think that's what you were getting at, Emilio, and just reach back out to me if I'm not reading it or interpreting it correctly. So David comes back in. So to change things up, maybe lessen the defensive load on Scholl or McFadden and Wiley, do you think we see a 3-5-2 or a 3 whatever next game? I don't think that you're lessening a defensive load. I mean, you could see personnel looking at it in different ways. I mean, if you come in with a 4-3-3, which is what you want to be, lessening a load on McFadden, I think that Aiden McFadden has done well on the right-hand side in the 4 matches where he was president of service in Toronto. I think he's done well. And for Machop Chol, you're asking Machop because you don't have depth currently in your system and in your roster. You're asking Machop Chol to do things that he hasn't done traditionally. And so you're asking him to do things, and he's been doing them as he has been asked. I don't think it's lessening a defensive load here in a 4-3-3 when you're seeing what Aiden McFadden is able to do, and you're seeing folks asked to do things. I think that adding Juanjo Porata helps you out in that regard because you're finally getting numbers back. And Caleb Wiley, as a 17-year-old, is learning the game. And I think that Caleb Wiley, over the last year plus, has grown exponentially in his game. But once again, as a 17-year-old, you have moments that are mistakes, and it's about learning from those mistakes going forward. In that mistake that you're referencing, David, when it comes to Caleb Wiley, it's just find a way to send it into the 300 level. I mean, that is for me, it's the bottom line. Send it into the 300 level. You take that mistake, you learn from it, you move forward. I don't think that changing into a 3-5-2 or what have you is, that's not part of the philosophy, but you could see things where, if Santiago Sosa is back to being healthier, Does he drop back in and be that third center back at times? I could see that as well, to where it would look like a 3-5-2. But once again, we get hung up on formations. Don't necessarily get hung up on formations here when you're looking at what Atlanta United may want to do. So the individuals that are out there, they look one way, but as soon as that whistle blows, things change and things are different. And players end up, on the opposite side of where they were. They work freely in the midfield. Don't get locked down into the notion of formations as we know them and we see them on a sheet of paper. I think that when you have a defensive midfielder who is comfortable against teams that have two strikers, you might see Santiago Sosa drop back and be that third center back. You might see now with Juanjo Purata, you might have George Campbell playing a 6, like we've seen him do that a couple times before and be that third center back. But, David, don't get hung up on formations for the sake of looking at numbers on a page. It will look one way when you see it on a piece of paper, but when you get into the game itself, things change formationally. That's the tactics that we talk about in philosophy versus tactics. So it'll be adjusted in a game-by-game idea inside the match itself with the tactics that you present. But don't get caught up in the idea of lining up formationally as a 3-5-2 unless you think that you're going to need those three center backs, but you've got to have three healthy center backs and perhaps another one or two on the bench behind you to help you out with the process. So you're still doing with what you have and working the pieces to fit where they need the assistance in game. But don't get locked up in the notion of a formational change from a 4-3-3 as you look at it on a page. And when you look inside the game in and of itself, where do the players support and where do they draw and all those kinds of things. So look, David, just keep an eye on things that way. And Waffle back in, when you go from competing for cups to competing for 7th place in your conference, we have a problem. It's evolution, not revolution. Once again, Waffle, we talked about where things are with Atlanta United and with all of the injuries and everything else that you're chasing. But the bottom line is, when it comes to a playoff picture, it's not like the Premier League where if you're first, you win and everybody else is fighting for second. Because of the way the playoffs are in sports here in America, it's get in and then do your best. And so right now, that's where Atlanta United is. If you get into the playoffs, then you make your noise. That's what you're chasing after here in the second half of the season. You're chasing after getting into the playoffs like you did last year and then going from there. So it's making do with all of these external factors that we've been talking about this year, mostly the 17 players who have been injured and Emerson Hyndman being injured twice and, trying to work your way into the playoffs. And so it's just understanding all of these things around you that are impacting what you want to do, and then compounded with what happened on Saturday night with the match against Austin. It's conquering time. I think that's Justin. I think that's a CM Punk reference, and good on you for it. I could live with losing 3-2. 0-3 is hard to swallow with these offensive players on the pitch. True. But once again, we talked about when you've got an early 2-0 lead, then you're looking at the idea of, once again, fighting up against a very disciplined defensive team and working your way through those lines when you're already down 2-0. And it's just that constant push. And when you're as disciplined as we saw from what we saw from Austin on the day, when you're up 2-0, ceding possession, dropping back, working on counters, then it is hard to swallow. But once again, you're kind of fighting against what has been set up by Austin on the day. So, yeah, definitely you're not the only one that thought that way. And, Emilio, to your second question, I wanted to include your first question because I thought it needed to be addressed because, all we got is space and all we got is time. So it's no worries about not answering a question. About your second point about Joseph, it was a very interesting 8 minutes. And Joseph said a lot of things. And once again, he's entitled to his own thoughts on the matter, and There were some things in there that I know that a lot of us will sit there going forward, and we'll sit there and look at those quotes and hang on to them, and we'll see what happens for the remainder of the season. I know that he put some things out there, and obviously it's not for me to sit there and make a judgment one way or the other as to what he said. I'm just going to take facts and evidence and go forward. And so we'll see what impact, if any, his comments have going forward, and we'll just see from there. But if there's anything specific that you want to address, I'll be more than happy to address it in its own specific nature. But yeah, it was a very interesting 8 minutes, and so we'll see once again where it goes here for the remainder of the season where Joseph Martinez is concerned. Michael Head, we won the battle of possession. Why do our defenders never seem to just clear or punt the ball in front of our goal? Obviously, that action has been coached out of them. I don't think so. Even the best teams in the world know that you sometimes simply have to punt the ball clear. Gee whiz. Now, Michael, I look at what you're referencing there, and Caleb Wiley was trying to do so, but once again, it was just one of those things where Caleb was trying and it didn't succeed. So, you're looking at that kind of a moment, and it's like, yeah, you learn. It's like right now you want to learn, if you're Caleb Wiley, to just send it into the 300s. And in that instance, he didn't do it. And that's, once again, one of these learning moments for Caleb Wiley. So, I don't think it's been coached out of them to launch it into the 300s. I think that, once again, focusing on a moment instead of larger picture, I think that it wasn't something that was coached out of him. But Caleb Wiley, in that moment, I think he just send it into the 300s and you move on to fight another day. Just launch it and just send it out. But once again, it's another one of those learning moments that we have here with Atlanta United. Unfortunately, it led to the second goal on the day, and that puts you in a 2-0 hole instead of the 1-0 hole that you were in. After the first 10 minutes, it was 2-0 heading into the 20s. So, that's where you are. So I don't think that it was coached out of them not to launch the ball and just punt it away. Thanks to everybody who, as always, likes to be a part of Salty Takeaways and sending in your thoughts and comments. And as always, you can always reach out to me if I didn't address the point. If you want to have more conversation on it, feel free to reach back out. I try to make this as much of a two-way street as possible in the notion here at Salty, where if you've got thoughts, I want you to voice yours, and I think that we can have we've had really good conversations, and I'm glad that you guys are still voicing your thoughts here, especially after as rough a night as we did. As rough a night as everybody had on the weekend at Mercedes-Benz, who either play for Atlanta United or follow Atlanta United. But quickly before we go on the 2's, it was a road trip to Tulsa to play FC Tulsa at 1OK Field. It was an 8:30 kick, so we kind of got to keep an eye on it in the second half after the match ended at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Here's your highlights for those of you that missed the match, courtesy of our friends at the USL Championship, ESPN Plus, and YouTube.
4 points separating these two teams. FC Tulsa closer to that 7th place spot that gets you that spot in the playoffs, but just about midway through the season.
And that goes back to Austin Wormel, who clears left footy. With Austin Wormel wearing all red tonight. He started the last 7 games before this one. Ball slipped through here. It's J.J. Williams. Chance! Oh, he's hit the bar. J.J. Williams is on fire, as we know. 8 goals this season.
Players trying to prove themselves for Atlanta United too.
Here's Bradley Bourgeois striding forward here. Here's DaCosta. DaCosta with a real chance here. And DaCosta has scored.
We'll get another look at the replay here. Great build-up. Bourgeois finds that diagonal run, just that little run in behind, and DaCosta, an excellent finish. Low and away, stays composed, knows exactly where he is.
One of their better games here together. That's a good ball here to Bourgeois. It's suddenly opened up. Bradley Bourgeois for 2. He's hit the post. Bradley Bourgeois getting into the box there, hits the post for FC Tulsa. And for the Brazilian here, Reymar. Reimer here. Going past McFarland. Reimer's in the box. Easy tap in.
Brings the ball down, gets on the inline, and FC Tulsa, poor defending Brennan on that backside.
Quite sure here what the referee's going to do. He's coming back to the players. And he's going right into him, and he's showing a red card here to Ronald Rodriguez. Robbie Mertz, who might just sit a little bit deeper now. Mateus. They're here, driving across goal, and on the far post there's an offside flag up. It won't count.
You want to be a playoff contending team, but they have about 12 minutes left to do it.
Now it's Machuca again, third opportunity. Great challenge coming in from Bryce Washington. Shot, goal!
Game changer for FC Tulsa. Here's another look. Lebo Maloto does well to bring that ball down. Machuca continuing to fight. Atlanta United 2.
Conway in those green boots. Machuca does well to get the ball up to Brown. Sliding challenge from Cobb. Got to be careful. Cobb's already had a yellow card. And in fact, the referee's going to send him off. That will be the second yellow card for Noah Cobb.
Earlier with Ronald Rodriguez. We'll get another look here at the replay. You see that first touch from Brian Brown, just enough, and Cobb comes through the player. Referee in a good position, goes straight to his book.
There's Robbie Mertz with the responsibility from the Atlanta United 2 left-hand side. Here it comes, into the danger area. There's a header just wide. And the referee brings proceedings to an end. The game ends fittingly.
So looking at USL Championship, now 5 matches in 15 days, mercifully over for Jack Collison and Atlanta United 2. And you look at fighting back down 1-0. Luke Brennan scores again to tie it at 1. It's his second goal in 3 days, as the team said on social. And then it was a red card in the 51st that you got to hear from FC Tulsa, so Atlanta had man advantage until the soft yellow on Noah Cobb, soft second yellow. So Noah Cobb will not be available next week for the road match for Atlanta United, as they're 5 matches on the road in their next 6, or 4 in their next 5 now with the match in Tulsa. Noah Cobb will not be available at the back, so it'll be a big loss for Jack Collison next week as they go on the road. The standings for the Eastern Conference right now, FC Tulsa with the win. They are now 6-4-10 at 22 points after 20 matches played. Atlanta United's played 20 matches, and they are at 15 points. They are basically 2 points out of 10th. And, Atlanta United, too, had been unbeaten in their last 3 heading into that road match with Tulsa. And their next match will be in San Antonio next Sunday, and going up against the top team in the Western Conference there. So Atlanta United 2 traveling to San Antonio next week. Stingy defense for San Antonio. They've only given up 14 goals in 17 matches this year, 13-1-3. So it'll be a tall order going up against San Antonio FC next Sunday for Atlanta United 2. So that's your quick look at 2's. That's your salty takeaway and your 2's review. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us here at SDH. Obviously, it's going to be a quick turn, so it gives Atlanta United the chance to get this match against Austin out of mind. Not forgetting it, but put it behind them as they work toward RSL coming to town. And it's another busy week, 3 matches in a week, RSL coming in the midweek, Orlando coming on the weekend, and we will all be here with it to cover each and every part. So thanks, as always, for being a part of everything here at SDH. Play it safe, everybody. We'll be with you all week long at Soccer Down Here.